Hello everyone and welcome to the session of interactive webinar with financial institutions organized by the Bureau of Energy Efficiency and GIZ. Representatives from the Bureau and financial institutions will describe about the initiatives in relation to energy efficiency in the building sectors. Let's begin with the presentations.
I would like to request Mr. Abhay Bakre, Director General, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, to give his address.
Thank you, Saurav, and good morning to all again. Very much welcome on behalf of BEE. Thank you for joining. We are discussing the key programs and initiatives, the current ones as well as the future roadmap from a series of video conferencing to different sectors, right from appliances, industry, building, transport. So this is in that series a very important topic of energy efficiency financing initiatives. We have a huge potential or scope in coming years in the building sector, many opportunities, especially we are not in the situation where we are actually demolishing the old ones and constructing new one like European countries or UK. But at the other hand, we are having a large number of buildings coming up, not only the offices, big establishments like airports, shopping malls, but at the same time, many housing projects as well. So with this amount of opportunity and further push from the government recently, we have a huge task ahead for reshaping our approach, how we can leverage this opportunity towards more efficient buildings in coming years in every sector. And finally, how to actually promote financing as a viable option to scale up the building initiative, the energy efficient building initiative, so that not only there is a good opportunity on the financing side, but at the same time, there is a lot of pull from the consumer or the purchaser side to convert their future projects into the energy efficient projects. So with this, I think we can have a discussion and maybe we will have a lot of inputs from you. And it can range from not only the topics or areas discussed now in this presentation, but anything else. If you feel on the financing side, on the building side, or anything you believe on, and a BE can take forward or consider in revitalizing our economic efforts with special focus on building sector. So thank you once again. I'm really delighted to participate in your discussion. Thank you. Over to you, Saurav.
Thank you, sir. We will discuss all those things and try to come out with some solution for the energy efficiency sector from the financial perspective. Now I will present on energy efficiency initiatives in the building sector, and which will be followed by 3 more presentations from various presenters. If we look at this slide number 2, we can see commercial building and domestic consumes together 33% of electricity. And this is the data if you look at 2012-13, 13-14 or 17-18 or even 18-19. This data is almost constant, then 33% of buildings are electricity is being consumed by buildings. But if we look at future, then this is going to be significantly high. And if we look at the projections, because residential area is going to increase. If we look at the data, there will be 3 billion meters square of additional space by 2030 in residential building sector. Whereas in case of commercial building sector, 1 billion meter square will be added for the commercial building. So we can assume that 4 billion meter square will be added in the building sector alone. In this COVID times, if we look at consumption in the building sector, it has increased manifold because a lot of people are either working from home or in the offices, but staying indoors. And staying indoor will again increase this consumption. So one of the analysis says that by 2040, this 33% will actually become 50%, and primarily because we are from the service economy and people are going for bigger homes as well. So Another reason is that people are going for more comfort conditions. So that is another reason where, because of which electricity consumption is going to increase. But this 4 billion meter square, if we reiterate, in other words, it is like 2/3 of our India is yet to be built, and only 1/3 of our India in buildings are built so far. So you can imagine that how much construction is going to happen. And if this construction is inefficiently designed, then built-in efficiencies of 30 to 40% excess of electricity consumption is going to be there for next 70, 80 years. So we have now this opportunity, we have this window of opportunity to implement energy efficiency in the building sector. If we look at various programs, what we have worked on, commercial buildings like energy conservation building code, we have super ECBC in states, labeling and star rating of labelings, we have energy efficient components. Even for residential buildings, we have code, labeling, and various other programs. So we'll see one by one what it is. ECBC is what we have actually revised in 2017, is now in 15 states, it is mandatory. This prescribes any building which is constructed with 100 kilowatt or more connected load has to be compliant with ECBC. And it specifies building envelope, indoor lighting, heating, ventilation, solar water heating, and etc. Now, if we look at states, the blue states, almost 15 states and UTs have already notified ECBC in the state, and remaining states actually is in the final stages of notification. So what we can expect that maybe by end of this year, most of the states will have ECBC as a mandatory thing in their respective states. Now, if we look at, this is ECBC in nutshell, that what it is, but what is the advantage? So instead of going in the technicalities, we are just showing you what are the results of ECBC. If you look at one of this building, this is Aranya Bhavan in Jaipur, and this building is ECBC compliant. And if we look at energy savings, 44% is the energy reduced from the basic design, which was actual when it was planned. And then when we suggested ECBC implementation, 44% of electricity came down. And incremental cost, if you look at, only is 2%, so which is not significant. If we look at UPERC office, Lucknow, 51% reduction, and incremental cost is 1.28 crores. This is a building from our SD office, MEDA, Pune. This is under construction. 35.4% is the energy consumption reduction in the building by this. And incremental cost is hardly 1.32 crores. Then this is another project from KK House, Guest House, Bangalore. If we look at data for this building, 48% is the reduction and incremental cost is only 2%. This is another example from Bihar Museum, Patna. So you can see various kind of buildings, actually incremental cost is between 2 to 3%, whereas energy saving reduction is, even in the museum itself, is 23%. Otherwise, it is 40 to 50% in case of any of the building. This is another example from Unnati office, Greater Noida. Again, savings in the order of 39%, and reduction is 1.5. Incremental cost is 1.5%. Then, if we look at ITC Kohenur, this is the best example. This ITC Kohenur even was visited by Minister of Power, and to assess that what they did. And if we look at energy saving achieved is 30.4%, whereas incremental cost is nil. And what they did, if you look at this building, this picture, what they did, that orientation of this building in such a way that lowest amount of direct heat inside the building, number one. Then they have vertical fins so that again heat induction or heat ingress can be reduced. Then they have these kind of walls. If you see here on the screen, they have plantation on the walls again, which has reduced induction or ingress of the heat. Now, what happened because of this? Instead of 2000 TR chiller, they used only 1200 TR chiller. And the amount they saved, what they saved from this installation of chiller, not only chiller, but all the electrical load also which came down, amount which was reduced because of this was actually used in other aspects of energy efficiency. And that's why this incremental cost is nil. So what I mean to say here is that if even it is designed in such a way at the right time, that then incremental cost can also be avoided by using ECBC. Then in the residential building sector, if we look at, we have launched EcoNiwas Sanhita in 2018. This is applicable for all the plot sizes which is more than 500 square meter. And right now we are supporting various states like Delhi, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka and Maharashtra for implementation of EcoNiwas Sanhita. Majorly because these states are actually, most of residential buildings are coming up in these states. So that's why we are supporting right in the first phase. But in the second phase, we will cover Pan India in this. Then another program which we have initiated or we have started is a star rating program, which we launched in 2019, where building owners or the developers can take star rating of the building, and it is similar to the rating program which is like air conditioners or refrigerator, where you understand that if I'm going to buy a 4-star or 5-star rated appliance, it will be giving me maximum benefit. So similarly, when you are going to purchase a 4-star or 5-star home, then you will get maximum benefit, and it can be even with the, if codes are reducing 30% of electricity, this will further reduce 30 to 40% of electricity if you are in the 4-star or 5-star band. This is the star rating which we are giving with the home, and also building passport. This is an online document, although, which is being updated on a regularly basis, and you can see how much energy you are going to consume, what are the things which have been already installed in your homes. But at the same time, every year it will be updated for what exactly you can do further to reduce your energy consumption. So it will be an ongoing exercise as well to support you. Then main features, if we look at the star rating, it is giving again choice to the consumers, encouraging them, and also they can peer-to-peer comparison as well. What we are supplying, we are giving them a plaque with the star rating, and that plaque can be used as a nameplate for your home, and on which your name will be written, your house number will be written, and also what is the star rating of home. So you can show with the pride that I am living in a 5-star home. So we are trying to associate that pride for energy efficiency and working towards environment. So these are the other benefits for this program. If we look at savings with this program, we have estimated that almost 278 billion units of electricity will be reduced with the use of this program. Then star rating of energy efficient homes, if we look at, this is applicable for new buildings, for existing buildings. And what we have added, and one more feature here is that because when developers are coming, they always want to sell their flats before final construction. So we have given them option of applied for label and final label. Applied for label means when they are under construction, they can get for applied for label. But then after completion, when they get completion certificate, then they have to apply for final label, which have to be certainly supplied to the consumer. But consumer can see with the applied for label that whether this is going to be a 4-star or a 5-star building. Then this is the complete program that construction permit is issued. That time we are issuing applied for label, but after occupancy certificate obtained, we will give final star labeling. And this is applicable for the new dwelling units. But even existing homes can apply this star rating program, which is for the existing building. They have to apply directly for the final star label. If we look at parameters, we have different zones in our country: cold, hot and dry, composite, temperate, and warm and humid. Right now, this program is applicable for not except cold for all the region. Uh, Even in hot and dry, if API value is less than 29, then you will get star rating of 5. In case of composite, in case of it is also 29. In case of warm and humid, it is 30, whereas in case of temperate, it is less than 17. So based on the climatic zone, these numbers vary. Then application process, user have to register here. Then there will be application processing in bureau. Once we receive, we will approve that label. Then there are other options available, because in this case, label renewal and label transfer are important, because even if you are selling that home to any other person, that person would like to have that label in his name. So label transfer facility is also in the tool itself. And and what we want in future, that anybody who is selling or buying any home should ask for star rating, and so that it is integral part of the registration documents as well. So that is the futuristic thing. Then monitoring and verification, again, because everything has to be checked, so we will do verification audits, data reporting, checking, and everything we will do. Then this is the process. On the left side, if you can see, this is the nameplate of which you will get, and then you will get also approval letter and the passport. So nameplate or the plaque you can actually install in front of your home. Approval letter will be generated, which is like a online copy, which anybody, if they ask for the certificate in detail, you can show them. And then the passport, which is an online generated passport, which will have all the intricacies detailing of this passport or this program. This is the way plaque will look like. This is the passport PDF format you will get. And applicability is applied for label will be valid only for 3 years, because what we expect that within 3 year construction will be completed. If they are not completing within 3 years, then they have to reissue that. They have to get it reissued. Then final star label will be applicable for 5 years, because what we observe that technology may change. So we can say that, okay, these things have to be improvised. And nameplate plaque will be at the final stage of star labeling will be issued. Then applied for label, it will only be applicable for the developers, because they are going to get that. But even in transfer certificate of applied for label will also be applicable. For example, right now JP is transferred to the NBCC. So in that case, if developer is changing, then transfer of label will be applicable in case of applied for label, but not with the owner. Developer to owner or owner to owner, this applied for label will not be transferred. But final label will only be transferred from developer to owner or owner to owner, because we understand that developer to developer, that might not happen. But we can see if that situation occurs, we can see if it is required. Now, if we look at savings from star rating program, 1 star on the bottom, savings on the operational cost, whereas a blue color is the incremental cost. So from the base of EcoNiwas Sanhita, it will reduce 11%, whereas incremental cost is also 11%. But if we look at savings in case of 5 star, savings is in the order of 57%, whereas incremental cost is hardly 28%. And this incremental cost is not on the total cost, it is on the construction cost. So total cost will be much less, because construction cost is roughly 15 to 20% of the total construction cost. Other initiatives, if we look at, we are designing a replicable design catalog for model residential homes. This catalog will be available for all the builders, and this is like a ready-made kind of a thing, which is, if you are designing with this catalog, your home is ENS EcoNiwas Sanhita compliant. So all the things, right from the design of the home, orientation of the home, and bill of material is mentioned in the catalog, and you can go directly with usage of this. In future, what we want that this catalog may be used by all the states when they are making it mandatory, and any home designed by this as per this catalog will have deemed compliance certificate for EcoNiwas Sanhita. Then energy efficient building materials directory, because when we are discussing all these things, one of the important parameter for construction of energy efficient home is the energy efficient building material, whether it's insulation or bricks or glazing, anything. So what we are doing is we have developed portal which will be available very soon for all the developers, for the users, for manufacturers, and even for the building material suppliers. All the building material suppliers will input their data, and then as a user or a developer, you can see that data, and you can even compare two insulation or three insulation material or three types of windows or even more type of windows, and you can see what is the energy efficiency potential or energy consumption reduction possible with each type of material. That will help you in assessing that material and help you in identifying or strategizing your implementation. What it will do, it will actually reduce your or it will improve your payback period. It will reduce your incremental cost, because then you can take a conscious call on which material will give you maximum benefits. Then smart home program also, this is again futuristic thing that when we are staying in any home, again, how we can control our devices so that we are consuming least amount of energy. So if you are using air conditioner, for example, if that air conditioner is used at certain times, or temperature conditions you can put into that 24 or 25 degree, it should not come lower than that. So you can control number of things in your home, even lighting, dimming, all those things you can control with this smart home technology. So we are assessing this right now. We are doing we are analyzing all the technologies, that how these will work and how it can support energy efficiency or energy consumption reduction in overall. So what we are expecting that by end of this year we will get this report as well. Then we are also analyzing thermal comfort of occupants in the residential homes. So far, we have thermal comfort study for commercial buildings, but for the homes or for the residential sector, we don't have in our country, and we are analyzing this thing. It is a long-term process. For almost a year, we have to observe number of people, and based on that, this thermal comfort study will give results. So we are expecting that by end of this year, these results will come, and by next year, first quarter of next year, we will have a report on this. Then EcoNiwas tool. This is one of the tool where everyone can actually see how much energy I can reduce. So you can assess various options. You can go to econiwas.com and you can assess that if you are using glazing or if you are using some kind of a building material, in overall, how much energy it will reduce. But in future, we will link this EcoNiwas tool with our building materials portal, and then you can, in the real scenario also, you can do that. If I'm putting this material, what will be the saving? Maybe material of A manufacturer, what will be the energy reduction? And if I'm using material B, what will be my energy reduction? So that is the thing which we are going to do. So these are the examples from EcoNiwas tool. Then role of financing. If we look at the gaps and barriers for financing in the building sector, we can discuss in detail, maybe after 3 presentations which we are going to have. But we also understand that there are lengthy approval processes, incremental cost, lack of awareness, all those things are issues. So we are trying to actually mitigate all these issues, and we are trying to resolve these. So that's why we are doing today this discussion, that how we can actually reduce these issues. So need of financing, if we look at residential sector is very important, and we understand that additional cost or incremental cost is one of the major concern by the consumers. So how we can actually uh, come out of that issue. Then form of financing, we can look into lower interest rates, payment of low interest loan through utilities, monetary payment from the government, or expediting permits, marketing, property or sales tax rebate, FAR, excess loans, or loan funds. All those things we can look into, and we can have a debate on that. Now, I would like to request Mr. Donnan Cannon if he can make his presentation from European Investment Bank and give his perspective on the financing in the residential or in the commercial building sector. After that, we will have a presentation by Ms. Ekta Mehra from KFW, and then Mr. Monu Ratra from IIFL.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Donal from the European Investment Bank. So this is the first slide. It's a picture of a building project that we're financing in Greece. And it's quite a typical energy efficiency project for us. It involves the refurbishment of some social housing in a suburb of Athens. And the refurbishment is the replacement of doors and windows and putting on some thermal protection to keep the buildings warm in the winter and reduce heat absorption in the summer, which can be quite intense. So this is a photograph of the EIB headquarters building. It's an energy efficient building. You can see the people working at the front there. And you'll see on the top on the roof a little zigzag pattern. Now the zigzag, the white parts are where the offices are. The rest of the building is thermal space. So the building is heated during the day by the sunlight coming into these open spaces in the middle of the building. And then at night it's cooled when they open the windows and the air is circulated over the concrete floors of the building. So the thermal stability of the building is controlled by the combination of the concrete flooring and the big open thermal spaces. The point about this really is that good design of buildings can reduce energy consumption dramatically. The other point I wanted to make here was that the EIB is the European Union's financing arm, and we invest inside Europe and outside Europe to meet EU objectives. And the most important objective at the moment is, apart from COVID response, is actually what is called the European Union Green Deal, where we're going to mobilize 1 trillion euros of financing in the next 10 years, so by 2030, to combat climate change. So the European Investment Bank launched a new energy lending policy at the end of last year, and based around a number of key goals. The first and most important goal was unlocking energy efficiency. And for us, that means increasing the renovation on old buildings, improving the energy performance of new buildings, and supporting investments by both SMEs and industry in new energy efficiency technologies. Now, normally the EIB can only finance 50% of a particular project. That's in our constitution. But for energy efficiency, we can finance up to 75% of the total project cost at a low interest rate and over a long duration. That means the projects become more viable. So this is the reason that we're most interested in energy efficiency, why it's our top priority for financing, is that if we're going to reach the 2-degree scenario published by the International Energy Agency, the single most important area of investment will be in energy efficiency. Of course, we need to continue investing in renewables and switch from carbon-intensive fuels to battery technology and even some carbon capture and storage. But the single biggest area of investment that is needed to meet a reduction of CO2 is in energy efficiency. And energy efficiency in buildings, like India, in Europe, 38% of all energy consumption is in buildings. And it's interesting that following COVID, most people are going to be working at home, meaning that energy consumption in homes is going to rise dramatically. And most homes are not kitted out properly with energy efficiency. At least new office buildings these days will have big and powerful energy efficiency savings. Homes will not be. So one of the interesting side effects of COVID is that probably energy consumption in domestic buildings is going to increase. Now, we've taken a look at emerging economies and seen what kind of policy measures are being put in place in emerging economies. And you can see on the top box on the left that we've divided the energy policy into 4 areas: residential buildings, non-residential buildings, transport and industry. And the green bars show the policy initiatives for all emerging economies, including China. And the orange bars show the policy initiatives for all emerging economies without China. So China is clearly a step ahead, but even in the non-residential buildings and industry buildings, it still only covers about 50% of the housing and industry. So it's clear there's an awful long way to go, and particularly in the policy sector in other emerging economies. This is the European approach to, or the European equivalent of India's star rating system. So we have an energy rating system for buildings and indeed all appliances. And the A rating is for the very best, the most efficient energy, and the E rating is the worst, obviously. And you'll see that 50% of the building stock in Europe is still currently rated E, so it has almost zero energy efficiency initiatives. And in fact, 97% of the buildings in Europe need to be improved and brought up to the modern energy efficiency standards. And you can see, unlike India, where 2/3 of the building stock will be built between now and 2050, in Europe, we're expecting maybe 15-20% of our new buildings. That means if we're going to change the energy consumption of our housing stock, we have to refurbish our existing buildings. I just wanted to show you 2 quick projects of the kind of things that we're doing outside of Europe. So this is a project, this is 2 ways in which we might work in India on energy efficiency. In Uzbekistan, we have partnered with local commercial banks, probably tier 1 commercial banks there, and we've provided them some low-cost, long-term financing that they then use to finance business investments in energy efficiency. And one of the reasons for looking at Uzbekistan is that they are very energy intensive in their development, and that most of the industry is state-owned, and there's a huge opportunity for improvement. This is a completely different scale of project. This is in Armenia, the rehabilitation. It started out as the rehabilitation of some preschool buildings, where with 2 very small loans to local governments, we were able to demonstrate very significant energy savings and cost reductions in the operation of these buildings. And then this led to 2 much larger projects, 10 times larger, in fact, for the rehabilitation of government-owned buildings, mostly in the education sector in Armenia. So those are 2 ways in which we could work. One is to partner with local banks in India, and the other is to partner with state-level authorities or national government projects on improving energy efficiency in public buildings. So I was asked to specifically address the point of near zero energy buildings. Now, the 3 graphs here, if we start on the left, you can see that energy efficiency lending has grown for the EIB from just under 1 billion euros in 2012 to almost 4.5 billion euros last year. So that's a 4-fold increase. And in fact, energy efficiency is now the most important subsector in our energy lending. Within the energy efficiency, some 70%, and that's the pie chart on the top right, 70% of our energy efficiency lending is to buildings. And if you go to the bar chart on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see that the proportion of near zero energy buildings, NZEB, is still relatively small out of all of our building finance and our energy efficiency. That's the orange bar, but it is growing really quite dramatically. Now, so near zero energy buildings is a formal standard that we are pushing for commercial buildings in Europe. And that standard is evolving. It's getting tighter every year. And it's about reducing, obviously, energy consumption during construction and in operation. Now, I just wanted to talk very briefly about what it is that we as investors in energy efficiency are looking for and how we mobilize projects. And I think just building on what you were saying earlier, Saurabh, the most important factor is in fact the standards that you're applying, whether it's NZEB or EcoNiwas or the star rating system. It's important that the projects are designed with these standards, and that these standards are credible, and that they're monitored and implemented correctly. And that's probably the single most important factor that you can do in providing high quality projects. So we are, as the European Investment Bank, we're ideally looking to harmonize those standards around international standards, and we would support the development of international standards, and I'll come back to that in a minute. I think one of the reasons for promoting, one of the most important ways to promote investment energy and efficiency is to combine grants from public sector with loans from financial institutions, and that's called blended finance. And those grants can come from international organizations, obviously like our partners in the European Union, but also it can come from CSR type projects or even Government of India grants. And those can be combined to design and implement high quality energy efficiency projects. And a third way of improving finance to these projects is to look at the sustainable development goals for these projects. And this is perhaps, it's an emerging area of finance. It's called sustainable finance. And more pension funds and sovereign wealth funds and so on, insurance companies have been given mandates to disinvest from energy intensive projects and to invest in sustainable finance projects. So if during the design of the project, you can look at the sustainable development goals that your projects are delivering on. And in this case, it would be SDG 9 for resilient infrastructure, but it also, the energy and climate action, sustainable development goals and so on are applicable. So those are three very important ways for mobilizing finance for energy efficiency. I just wanted to talk about how the grants can be blended with finance, debt finance. So the way in which grants can be used is to prepare large-scale projects. So use the grant to do all the project design work. In this particular case, to do the standard certification during project implementation, and to look at the SDGs or the environmental sustainability and governance improvements on the projects. So those can be the use. You can use the grant to design and support the implementation of the project. That then makes it much easier for the multilaterals like ourselves and KfW and so on to provide low-cost finance for these projects. So the reason for looking at sustainable finance is that there are a huge number of sustainable investors around the world, and there are not enough sustainable finance projects around there. So the EIB issues around 2 billion a year in sustainable finance bonds. And what we've noticed that the investors keep those sustainable finance bonds. Once they've bought them, they do not sell them. And this is an indication that there are not enough of them around. So designing the projects with the sustainable development goals in mind will help you attract better low-cost financing. Coming back to the standards point, the European Union and the Government of India are working together with a number of other governments on something called the International Platform for Sustainable Finance. And this is developing a global standards or a classification system, and you'll probably hear it referred to as a taxonomy. But what it is a classification system for economic activities. And this global taxonomy or global classification is going to be applied starting in 2021 by across the European Union, and eventually it will also be applied in India and the rest of emerging economies. And the way it will be used is that businesses will have to assess their operations and their capital investment programs in accordance with the classification system, and they will have to provide a formal report as part of their annual financial statements on the sustainability of their operations and their capital investment programs using this classification system. And that's going to start in Europe in 2021. And I'm not sure when it will start in India, but I think that's still under discussion. The reason for doing that is that it allows private investors to invest in sustainable businesses and be able to compare businesses from their sustainability. And those investors will know whether those businesses are genuinely green or blue if they're investing in the marine economy. But so it's an important set of standards there. These classification system will also be used by auditors and regulators to assess at a sectoral level the level of climate and environmental risk in portfolios. And organizations like the Reserve Bank of India and the European Central Bank will be looking at the sustainability of their portfolios going forward. I just wanted to finish up there. I'd be happy to take any questions at the end. Thank you very much indeed, Saurabh.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to request Ms. Ekta Mehra from KFW.
Hello everyone. It is a very short presentation because the why of energy efficiency has been covered very well till now by both the previous presenters. So I will just focus on what we are doing right now in India in terms of the actual work. So KFW, just a brief introduction for people who don't know us. We are the German development bank and we implement the official development assistance projects in India on behalf of the German government. Renewable energy and energy conservation are the key focal areas for us in India. And we have implemented, although we have implemented several projects in the field of energy efficiency for residential buildings in Germany, our focus for today's conversation and discussion is what we are doing in India, which brings us to the line with SBI. SBI, as we all know, is the largest commercial bank in India and it is also the #1 home loan provider. We have a very strong relationship with SBI and there are several other credit lines which also exist in the field of renewable energy with SBI for us. So just talking about the details of this particular line which we have with SBI, it's a 250 million euro credit line and it comes with a technical assistance of grant of 1.5 million. This is specifically for capacity building measures and helping in implementing the line as in terms of setting the technical processes for evaluation of the projects and to check whether the projects submitted or under this line meet the eligibility criteria and lead to energy efficiency savings of at least 25%. This line also comes with a 10 million investment grant. This grant is to be used specifically for achieving higher levels of energy efficiency. By higher levels, we mean 40%, at least 40%. The eligibility check for these to be eligible for a project to be eligible under this line is basically ECBC right now, but however the details of the process is yet to be determined. That is part of the technical assistance package and the consultant is going to be on board to develop this process for SBI and together with SBI and BEE. This line, as we said, is eligible to finance both builders who make such buildings and also home loans for availing loans in energy efficient building. All said, this loan agreement, although it was signed in December 2019, we all know what happened since March. So not much progress has happened so far in this line. And even the consulting process, the tendering process for the technical assistance grant, wherein by the consultant can come in and set up the details of this facility is still underway and is kind of halted due to the COVID situation. we are hopeful that in spite of the COVID, we will make some progress in this line this year. Thank you, Saurav. This is it from my side.
Now, I would like to request Mr. Monu Ratra from IIFL for the presentation.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. As far as I'm concerned, so I don't have a presentation. So I would just like to briefly talk about some of our initiatives and some thoughts which we have gathered over a period of time. We are an affordable housing finance company, and we've been working towards encouraging green affordable housing in India. The topic is widely discussed and talked about, but when we go on the ground, the realities need to be connected with our intent. What we have been working on this for past 2.5 years, and under the flagship of Kutum, which was mentioned also in the presentation. We found that as we all know, 95% of the homes which are required are going to be in EWS LIG category, and the data suggests that within that 95% of them are going to be built by the local developers and much smaller developers, or it's going to be a self-construction. So that's when we went out and we realized that the first thing we need to do is that get that realization to the developers who are going to build those homes. There are some myths which exist about green affordable homes, and some of them are reality as well. So we have done about 5 Kutums. We covered about 600 plus developers. Under this flagship program, we have created a common platform where we talk about design, we talk about the process of green certification, and which is also followed by the financial solutions. So we have seen tremendous positive response from the developers. But as we go deeper, we realize that they would need some kind of hand-holding to execute these things because of the understanding or the capacity deficit to the kind of technical manpower available across the country. So we set up a Green Value Partnership under which we have green architects and civil engineers who walk them through this whole journey. So we see very encouraging signs, and we do, and we were fortunate enough also to be granted one line which was there with NHB from the ADA, Asian Development, the Sovereign Bank of France as well. So we have seen very positive response. But here I'd like to just add few aspects and some thoughts, which I'm sure, as we have a very illustrious gathering, they can address this. What we have been looking at is that we have to rationalize the norms with which we expect these buildings to happen. There is a concept of a light green and a mid green and a dark green. So we have to see that we need to have norms which can be easily executable and which we can see that those basic thresholds are met. If the norms are going to be very highly placed, then the difficulty of execution is going to be very much. And in affordable homes, the price sensitivity is very high. So this could also result in discouraging the developers to build green as well. That is one part. The other part is, as we know, India has 4 climatic zones. So we need to have norms which are very conducive to across various climatic zones and easily executable. And finally, I would say is that we need to make and encourage green financing much more. Currently in India, there is not even a single green bond which would have got issued for an affordable housing project across the country. We see a lot of interest in renewable energy, but in green affordable homes, we need to create the ecosystem for availability of financing, which needs to be there, which can encourage players like us to do more. Because at the end of it, financing is the final leg of executing everything else to what we aspire for. So I would just conclude by saying that there's a tremendous interest there. We have created an ecosystem both of technical expertise and of the process, and we look forward the opportunities with various stakeholders on this group and platform, where we can collaborate and we can showcase much more examples out there to do that. Currently, as we speak, we have about 12 projects which we are monitoring for green certification across the country, which have got created through our Kutum platform. So we are looking out actively to leave aside this current pandemic, but we had a site that in about 3 to 5 years time, we should at least be targeting at least about 50,000 homes from our side, which would be green. So that would be it from my side, and we look forward for working with BE to see that how we can collaborate, and also as far as see that, for example, SIDBI also participants are there. So, for example, there are some procedural and other things which are there, like for availing anything from SIDBI side, HFCs may not be considered because not being an NBFC. So I think these some bottlenecks need to be sorted, and if you want to make this into a big reality, but it's very much possible. People are excited on the ground, but we need to connect the last mile. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Monu. Now we have a session open for question and answers and discussion. Mr. Sanjay Joshi's hand is raised. So if he can say.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Sanjay.
Okay, two questions. One question to Donald. Something that Donald, though you mentioned that you planning to raise some 1 trillion euros for this. What is the focus area, and have you done any tie-up in India for financing any of the institutions or any of the developers? One. And the other question to Saurabh, how different your ratings are from the rating of IGBC or the GREHA, because they already doing it and they have virtually the whole market share as of today. And what are the incentives you are giving to developers from your side, from besides what is already available from the government to both developers?
Mr. Donald.
Thanks, Saurabh. So we do have a number of existing partnerships, including the State Bank of India and IIFCL, with a number of non-bank finance corporations and private banks. Those are all listed on the website. There are about 8 or 9 of them. So those are our partners. I would say that most of that is for investment in renewable energy. At the moment, we don't currently have any lines that are dedicated for energy efficiency or buildings.
Okay.
They are permitted in the existing lines, but nothing dedicated. So that's something that we will be looking at probably starting in 2021. But thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Now, coming to your question, actually, our rating is a somewhat different. Reason is that these GREHA or IGBC rating is for the green, and they include number of other aspects. For example, how much is the greening or plantation you have done. All those things are included. So they have only 15 to 20% overall numbering system. Only 15 to 20% is given for the energy efficiency aspect. Whereas if you look at energy efficiency, it will give you a maximum advantage because of your how much money you are going to save, how much reduction in electricity consumption, and with respect to CO2 as well. So our rating is only for the energy efficiency. Second, this is a government program rather than, because IGBC and GREHA are not government-backed programs. So this is a government-backed program.
Okay.
So we have few discussion points. If we can discuss on this. Success factors for financing EE in housing sectors. What do you feel that what we should have as a success factor for financing of energy efficiency in housing sector? Yes.
I will like to speak. See, the entire objective of the green building or energy efficiency is wonderful. But the challenge, there are two challenges, okay? The first itself, what is there for me as an individual, okay? No, though we have been talking here, we've been talking all around on various forums that there is an energy saving, okay? But effectively, these green buildings or the energy efficient building are mostly commercial buildings, okay, where owner has a control on the building and he gets a direct benefit. For individuals, there are tax benefits in terms of some property tax, but all this the energy which is the saving, okay, no, there is no direct comparison. What has been my saving? So that something has to be brought to the notice. The other thing is also, I think what is most important is awareness of this project itself. See, unless the people are aware what is the direct benefit to me, or because there are direct and both indirect benefits, unless you make people aware, understand, they will not go in for it. Okay, nobody is interested in future benefits. First is right, what is the benefit to me? Is it comparable to what additional amount going to spend it? Those things are not there. Okay, now even if you look at the projects which have been completed as a residential project, now I'll come back to residential, because commercial it is easy to maintain those projects, but in residential projects, these projects are run by cooperative societies. So whatever residential buildings which have been completed as the green compliant, are those cooperative people are even making efforts to maintain those projects to the standard which were set. So I think first point I would say, if you have to make this as a success for the implementation of the program, I think we have to brand this product in telling the benefits to the consumer first, okay? Because unless consumer is interested in buying this project, will never get success. The number two, on the financing part, for us, now I will talk about HDFC as a lender, I can only give benefit to a developer or to a consumer if I'm getting up funds at a cheaper rate, right? Today, there is no such scheme available where you are getting a cheaper funds which can be passed on, because each one is working on a spread today. As an institution, I would love to finance. And just to give you a number, okay, we as a financial institution is the largest private sector housing finance company, having a customer base of 63 million. The green building concept started about 10, 12 years back, became very popular. Today, even as per IGBC, there are 5,000 projects. We are monitoring about 273 residential projects in India, where our exposure in those residential projects is close to 1.6 billion US dollars. About 40,000 of those customers have taken money. But I am not able to pass on any direct benefit to them. It is just that we are tracking at the back end. So what is important is, if consumer had to accept this product, first is we have to brand this product. We have to make people aware what is happening. Like you are doing for institution, you have to go back one step more to make, like Kutum, IFL doing it, Kutum, but it's very small scale. So it has to be done at very large scale, branding the product. And also, as a developer, what is there for me? Because today developers, we are all talking about developers making green buildings, but developers finding so difficult to sell the project. So anything which is added to me, and all these projects which are being done for last many years, these are not new projects, they are doing it. When they launch a new project, yes, we can build all those controls. So first is financing part. If you look at financing, what are the finances available from the government, or what are the financing from private sector? The green bonds, which Monu said, are not easily done in India as of now. There are very few options. RBI restriction there. There are a lot of restrictions from RBI also for raising funds as of now, because they're under the various arrangements. So I think we have to look at, if I have to promote developers to build and come back to me for taking cheaper funds, I should have an access to cheaper funds. The second part is customer going back to builder and looking only for green projects. They should see the advantage, which are both short term and the long term. I think those something. I think my suggestions would be, I think we should work on those.
Yeah, can I just interrupt, Mr. Sanjay? So
yeah,
for the first part, what do you think that let's say BE can facilitate, like for cheaper finance?
For financing, okay. No, see, today the financing, the retail financing are today are in the range of about 7.5%, right? This 7.5% is purely linked to the cost of borrowing for us. Now, today we raise funds from the public and deposits and borrowings from the banks. So now our cost of borrowing would typically range between 6.5 to 7%. The lending to individual retail customers is about 7.5%. For developers, we charge around 10% because to just make the okay. Now, if I get a cheaper funds, now like for example, NHB has allocated certain cheaper funds for affordable housing. Okay, in those cases, in those select funds, we offer the concession rate to those customers only to the extent whatever back-to-back funding is available to us. So my suggestion would be you will have to allocate funds like government is doing for affordable housing, something at the back end where access to specific funds are available only which are used only for these green projects. So we do it for marketing, we lend them, we may be maintaining very small spreads. Spread is not an issue, but itself is the developers would like cheaper funds to be made available so they can pass on the cost of saving to the customer. So customer gets direct benefit in terms of unit cost, customer gets direct benefit over a long-term period for their electricity saving or indirect benefit in terms of health and all those sectors.
Okay.
Can I, this is Monu Ratra, can I add something on this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So sir, actually, if you see most of the DFIs, they have mandated from their entities to fund the government or public sector backed institutions only. So the international DFIs, and they are the most keen to look at this kind of a sector. If we could come up with a some kind of an arrangement wherein if there are some private institutions who are very active and who are very confident of making it through, if government could come in as an intermediary or some amendment to be requested to these institutions to say that, okay, you can pick up and fund that directly at private institution as well. Here, government is guaranteeing something or in some manner. So ultimately, if with the same kind of money, let's be practically speaking, to put an effort to get somebody to build green is a lot of non-monetary effort which goes into it. So how do you make that work? So it's a kind of a catch-22 at the moment. We want to take care of climate. At the same time, how do you make the wheel move? So it's a very typical situation which we are in. So we would like to see that if there's such kind of a arrangement could be worked up, and where BE could be a partner or some other government institution could be a bridging partner in this with a private institution, and give it let us try at a small level, make it work, and then take it up. So green financing ecosystem is a huge necessity for housing sector to really delve into this. So that's the sense I get out of this.
Yeah, very true. I think even a one-page note you can give it just to list out who are the possible stakeholders. Not a complicated, but as I said, just a small track. So
Sure.
start with how many stakeholders. Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Sure.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, madam.
Yeah, this is Ekta Mehra. Yeah. I would like to bring in one point here. In Germany, we find that there is a very successful program which was run for the energy efficiency space in buildings. However, when we see the success, why it became so successful was it was really supported by a government of Germany scheme for subsidizing energy efficiency construction or refurbishment and stuff like that. And that financing flew through KfW, and in terms of the technical standards being implemented. So I would say that yes, there is a need for financing definitely. However, also if it is if it is to be achieved at a larger scale, then Government of India scheme needs to be there to support such initiatives as well. Apart from the DFI money which is coming in, But on a larger scale, and given the number of buildings which are yet to be constructed in India and which need such a sort of support, it will be a really good initiative if Government of India is also part of that overall scheme.
So one more thing I'd like to add, Monu, again, is that today if I have to see where is I can access some green financing in the country today is nowhere. In the sense that, like for the banks, there is some mandate to do PSL, MSME. There is no separate carved out section to say that, okay, you have to encourage green affordable housing. So today, if I have to go out there and borrow specialized for this, there is no way to go but for that NHB scheme which came our way with the FD. But otherwise, there is no specialized window available in the entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
Can I come in here? This is Donald from the European Investment Bank. Thank you. Just, I'd like to come back to Sanjay Joshi's point on the awareness building, which I think is excellent. Here in Luxembourg, part of the awareness building was by government policy that all new rentals of houses or apartments and all building sales have to be accompanied by a certification of the energy efficiency. So by now, that was started 3 years ago. So by now, almost 2/3 of the buildings in Luxembourg have an energy rating. And the second point I wanted to make was about the skills infrastructure that goes with that. Most of those energy ratings come from independent companies who are set up with technicians who know how to do the energy ratings on buildings. Those are private sector companies. And so anybody can go out and use, get an energy rating. You pay for it. It's quite a small amount of money that you pay and get an energy rating. And then you can rent or sell your house. So I think the two things are needed: some kind of government push to enforce the standards during renting and sales, and secondly, a push to allow private sector inspectors and ratings agencies.
Any other comment? Okay, we don't have any other comment, so I would like to request Mr. Abhay Bakre if he can give his final remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Saurabh. The inputs which are given by all of you, briefly, if you make a suggestion, specific suggestion, what we can do, not only we can always approach Housing Ministry or Ministry of Power or anybody else. So in that, we can come out with 2-3 options, as you suggested, most of you. And but the most important thing is that we need to create the awareness. Now that awareness cannot be just come as a validation. That is important, but it has to be coupled with some kind of a broader scheme, some kind of incentive, some kind of a push, and finally there should be some structured approach defining who are the stakeholders, who are the partners, what is their specific role. We may start with a small target group, but then we can expand it, and depending on the success or requirement, we can fine-tune it. I think all of you can just give the suggestion after going through the different presentation, as well as the existing scheme also. From our side, we are ready if it requires a larger scheme, if it requires a borrowing, cheaper finance from somewhere else, or make it cheaper by adding some incentive, reducing the interest rate or any other back-end contribution from BE side. We are ready to do based on your comments, based on your suggestions, I think in another week or 10 days, we'll come out a structured approach, how to move forward. We'll again circulate to all of you. Then you can add anything or put a comment. Okay, Saurabh?
I would like to thank everyone in the meeting. Thank you.